In this video, let's try to determine the limit as x approaches -6 of the following fraction, absolute x plus 6 divided by x plus 6. Now we've seen that in order for our overall limit to exist, both of our one-sided limits do have to exist and be the same value. So let's break this question apart into two substeps. We'll take a look at the limit as x approaches -6, but for values that are a little bit less than -6. And we'll take a look at the limit as x approaches -6, but for values of x that are a little bit larger than -6. Let's try to logically figure out what's happening in part 1. If we're looking at values that are a little bit less than -6, this means that our x values must actually be less than -6. And if that's the case, it's true that the absolute value of x plus 6 should be equal to x plus 6 but multiplied by -1. And you should be able to verify that this is true by taking values of x that are a little bit less than -6, such as -6.1, substituting them into the equality that we have here, and verifying that it's truthful. If we believe this is the case, then we should be able to make the substitution for our numerator. We should be able to replace the absolute value of x plus 6 with x plus 6, but multiplied by -1. And that's going to allow us to essentially cancel off the same factor in the numerator and the denominator. And that's going to leave us with a number of -1. And we can use some similar logic in part 2. If we're looking at the limit as x approaches -6, but for values a little bit bigger than -6, this means that the x or a values that we're choosing should be bigger than -6. And this implies that the absolute value of x plus 6 can actually be replaced with x plus 6. And you should be able to verify that this is true by making a correct substitution. So choose something like -5.9, for example. We can sub this into both sides of the equation and see that the equation is indeed valid. So what does this mean for our algebra? This means that we should be able to take our original limit as x approaches -6, but from the right-hand side, get rid of that absolute value and actually replace it with x plus 6 without the absolute value. And now I can see that the numerator and denominator are actually the same factor. We can cancel that out and note that our limit here should tend towards the number 1. So this is going to cause a problem for our overall limit. So from the left-hand side of -6, we're approaching y values of -1, but from the right-hand side of -6, we're approaching values of +1. So the overall limit of this function as x approaches -6 does not exist.